You use something. It works. Impressively. Faster than you expected. More accurate than you could do yourself. You rely on it. Without thinking twice. But if someone asked you how it works, you wouldn't be able to explain it. Not fully. Not step by step. In systems like large language models from OpenAI and Anthropic, responses are generated in ways even their creators can't fully trace step by step. And in everyday tools like Google search and recommendation systems, results are refined continuously based on patterns too complex to fully unpack. You see the result, but not the reasoning behind it. Some systems are now improving faster than humans can fully understand how they work. And once that happens, keeping up is no longer guaranteed. There was a time when progress made sense. Something improved. You learned how, you understood it, and that understanding let you keep up. Technology moved forward, but people moved with it, step by step. When understanding keeps pace with progress, humans stay in control of what they use. You still expect this. You learn something new. You adapt. You catch up. Because if something affects you, you assume you can understand it, at least enough to trust it. That belief matters. Because it keeps you involved. It keeps you part of the process. It means progress doesn't leave you behind. Now that balance is changing, systems don't just improve, they iterate rapidly, continuously, beyond what a single person can track. In research environments, models are trained, updated, refined, sometimes in cycles too fast for humans to fully analyze between versions. In platforms like OpenAI's GPT models or Anthropic's Claude, capabilities expand with each iteration. More data, more refinement, more complexity, but not always more explanation. The system learns, even when the reasoning behind that learning isn't fully visible or fully understood. That's the shift. Not improvement, acceleration without clarity, and you don't see most of it. You only see the output. What works, what appears in front of you, not how it got there, or what changed along the way. And that gap isn't obvious at first, because each improvement feels small, manageable, like something you could understand if you had the time. But those small steps accumulate, layer after layer, until the system is operating at a level that didn't exist the last time you felt like you understood it. When systems improve faster than humans can interpret them, understanding begins to fall behind learning. You felt this. You use something powerful, but you couldn't explain how it works if you tried. And that doesn't stop you, because it works, because it's useful, because the result is enough. The moment results become enough, understanding starts to feel optional. At first, that gap feels manageable. You don't need to understand everything, just enough. But then the gap widens. The system improves again, and again, and again, and your understanding doesn't keep up. Not because you stopped trying, because the pace changed. Now progress doesn't wait for explanation. It doesn't slow down until it's understood. It continues, whether you fully grasp it or not. And the more it continues, the less it depends on you catching up. Because the system isn't waiting for understanding. It's moving forward based on performance. Based on what works, not on whether that process can be explained in a way you can follow. In areas like drug discovery, climate modeling, and large-scale prediction systems, outputs are already being used before the underlying reasoning is fully unpacked. The result works, so it moves forward, even if the explanation comes later, or never fully arrives. You experience this in smaller ways. You rely on something, trust something, use something, and only afterwards realize you don't actually understand how it reached that result. And that changes something, because understanding used to be the point where you caught up. Now it's something that trails behind. When progress no longer depends on human understanding, learning continues beyond where humans can follow. And once that happens, keeping up becomes less about effort and more about limitation. Nothing stops working. In fact, everything improves. Faster results, better predictions, more capable systems. But something shifts. You're no longer keeping pace. Not visibly, not dramatically, but consistently. You're using tools you don't fully understand, relying on outputs you couldn't reproduce, trusting systems you couldn't explain. When understanding becomes optional, control begins shifting away from the user. And that doesn't feel immediate, because everything still works, everything still helps, everything still moves forward. But the relationship changes. You're no longer moving with progress, you're moving after it, following it, adapting to something that has already advanced beyond your ability to fully grasp it. And that creates a quiet shift in how you relate to it. Because you're no longer building understanding alongside progress. You're adjusting to something that has already moved ahead. And once that becomes the pattern, you stop expecting to fully understand what you rely on. And after a while, something else changes. Because understanding used to be how you stayed relevant, how you stayed involved, how you stayed in control. But if understanding is no longer required, then your role begins to shift, not removed, but reduced, because the system doesn't need you to fully understand it, only to use it. And once that happens, you're no longer keeping up. You're depending on something you can't fully follow. And once you depend on something you can't follow, control becomes harder to define. If you can't fully understand what's shaping your world, how do you know you're still in control? If this made you think differently about how quickly things are changing, hit the like button. It helps more people recognize what's already happening beneath the surface. Subscribe to become part of the Unlocked, where we explore how intelligence, systems, and power quietly reshape human control. And if someone you know still believes they can keep up with everything around them, share this with them. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.